I think that there is a couple of examples of concept cars. One by Volkswagen, which is its concept Gen Travel. And these seats, they turn into beds. And it triggers also a lighting that has automatically melatonin production lighting to help the passengers fall asleep and wake up.
That's Carol Aquino, Head of Consumer Tech at WGSN, describing the new age of car interiors. Welcome to the WGSN Create Tomorrow podcast. In today's episode, we'll be exploring the future of electric vehicles from a tech and a design perspective. Most specifically, how automated driving will impact the car interior, with it likely to evolve into a lounge on wheels. So joining me to discuss this topic are my colleagues, Carol, who you just heard from, and Angela Ringo, Senior Trend Forecaster and Editor on our Interiors platform. So I'd really like to kick off here with a brief overview of what the opportunity is for designers and automakers. How much is this EV market likely to grow? And I'll come to you first for that, Angela.
Well, we've been tracking the growth of EVs for a few years, and it's been steadily increasing. In fact, the global electric vehicle market is expected to increase over fourfold to an estimated global market size of $1.4 trillion, which is huge. In China, EVs are seen as the future of transportation, and it's expected that EVs will make up to 25 to 50% of the country's passenger vehicle market by 2025, which is just 2 years away. So you can see that the increase is happening quickly and steadily, which is really exciting.
From a personal perspective, I got rid of my car in 2021. I'm in London and there's a ULEZ scheme, and I'm waiting for the price to come down. I've not got a car at the moment, so I assume that's the case for many other people. Carol, what is the consumer shift? How many people do you think will be buying into the EV market?
Definitely, it's on the increase, and it's great because, yes, the prices are coming down because the technology is advancing. So it helps when the technology is advancing, the prices come down. And we know that more than half of global consumers are intended to buy a car within the next 24 months, and they would prefer to have an EV or a hybrid vehicle. And I guess that demand for sustainable transportation is also a key driver for consumers. So global Google searches for sustainable transportation have increased 38% year on year. And we've also been monitoring this on TikTok, where the hashtag EV has over 8 billion views. Clearly, signaling that EVs are top of mind with younger generations as well.
I was going to ask about that actually, because I'm kind of a Gen X, and price is going to be even more important, right, for Gen Z, because they are the generation that is struggling. They're only able to rent because they can't afford to buy property. So clearly, if I had widespread adoption, prices are going to have to really come down, aren't they?
The technology is evolving, so definitely prices are coming down. And I think that one relevant example that I can give on how quickly it is evolving and how the prices can come down is that Tesla has recently announced that it's closing in on this new manufacturing process that is reducing costs significantly for them, in which they would be able to build an EV model for around $25,000. And that would take them as well 18 to 24 months to make the product, while nowadays other companies usually take 3 to 4 years. So this is a significant game changer that could bring prices down.
Just piggybacking off Carol, I think that other brands are going to be looking at Tesla and whatever new manufacturing processes they have, or I think they'll try to adopt similar processes so that it's faster, cheaper, and easier to create an electric car. I did notice at the past Detroit Auto Show and the New York Auto Show, there were a lot of mid-range vehicles, EVs, a lot that were very affordable. Toyota, Nissan, Kia, all represented models that are mid-range. So to Carol's point too, I think as the technology continues to evolve and become more affordable, more automakers will adopt EV and bring it into their fleet. I also know that a lot of these car brands are done making combustion engine cars. So they have to make it, it's like they have to make it affordable in order to keep the same numbers of sales. So I think it's inevitable that it will become more affordable for consumers.
What are the sort of tech advancements, if you like, Carol, you're head of our consumer tech vertical, that are impacting the design of car interiors?
There's a cool acronym called CASE, and it's meaning connectivity, autonomy, shared mobility, and electrification. And obviously, the most important one here is electrification, because when you are moving from fossil fuel car making to electric, it has the most significant impact as it encompasses all the three mentioned before. So basically, you enhance shared mobility, you have connectivity because of electrification. So, and also all of that will lead to autonomy. And I guess that this is what is so cool about it, and the tech advancements that are really impacting, and why EVs are so important right now.
So how are people feeling about autonomous driving, though? Because I love driving, and the idea of just sort of getting into an autonomous vehicle, and I know that there are already lots of autonomous taxis in parts of the world, and this is happening already. I've yet to experience it personally. But how are people actually feeling about it? Are they kind of embracing it, without any concerns? Angela, what's happening here?
I agree. I'm Gen X too, and I love to drive my own car. I learned how to drive on a stick car. So I think for people that are maybe Gen X and older, will have a bit of anxiety around releasing control around driving. It's kind of nerve-wracking to think that your car is going to drive you somewhere and you have very little or no control over it, or you have to engage control to take control back from the autonomous technology. But I think auto brands are kind of addressing this by making interior spaces much more comfortable, much more soothing, and they're breathing in things like ambient lighting. There's scentscaping with like integrated diffusers, creating an environment that feels more like a living room or a lounge space so that you can be comfortable while you're riding in this car that's driving itself. Carol and I were talking the other day about how younger generations, especially like Alpha, they're being raised with screens being just a part of their life automatically. They're, when I'm driving, I see distracted driving all the time. So in that sense, I can see how autonomous driving actually becomes attractive, because if you're already distracted on a screen, you're not really engaged in driving. So great, have the car handle the hard work. But I think that with younger generations, it's just more appealing to have an autonomous car, because they're used to that kind of screen integration, that kind of like lounge space kind of lifestyle where maybe they don't want to do the driving. They much rather be on their tablet or doing their homework or, doing some other activity while they're in the car.
Let's talk about the specific trends, because I just love being a bit of an interiors fan. I love all these sort of different things that are happening. Carol, I understand it's to do with the skateboard chassis of an EV, which is another thing. I love the description. It makes it sound very cool. And that's kind of just the structure of it means that it's opened up all these possibilities in design, right?
The skateboard chassis is a great illusion because it explains it really well. If you think of a skateboard and how the main body is flat and the wheels are attached on the sides, that's how EV chassis are built. So the reason why those EVs have this type of skateboard chassis is because they need fewer mechanisms to operate when compared to a petrol, based car. And also that leads to enhanced connectivity with tech software and systems as well, because they need that. And this gives a lot of freedom, right? Because you have that flat surface in which you can build the interiors of the cars and have everything above. Basically, it can be customized. So this level of freedom, allows car makers to create bespoke and adaptable environments. And that could, in the future, be swappable, removable, utilized independently, and sustainability and 3D printing here also are coming into play to create modular setups that require fewer parts. So this gives a lot of design possibilities and this adaptability and multitasking for car makers to create environments that can be tailored for work, rest, or play.
So how do car manufacturers use this design freedom, and what are the current trends with design in EVs at the moment? Angela?
Auto brands are really focusing on designing cabin spaces that feel much more like a lounge space or a living room. And this is happening across the board, whether it be like a luxury sedan or a mid-range vehicle. And I've even seen this kind of thing in like tough trucks and outdoor vehicles. So a couple examples that I thought were interesting are Volkswagen's all-electric Gen Travel concept, which is designed to be an alternative to short-haul flights. So it's like a commuter car, but for longer distances. And the vehicle features seating that is actually arranged around a center coffee table so that you can sit and have a meeting or have a conversation or have something to eat using the table. Also, 2 of the seats lie completely flat so that you can sleep. And there's an automated lighting system that shifts color based on the circadian rhythm, which I thought was really cool. I have another example from India, Tata Motors. They have a concept called Avinya, which has a very human-centric design, very spacious interior, but it has this beautiful sky dome roof that's completely transparent, so you can see the night sky or you can allow sunlight in. And it also has an aroma diffuser, so it's using an olfactory element to kind of create an atmosphere within the cabin space. And then one car that I'm super excited about, and I want to go test drive this when it's available, is the EV9 by Kia, which is their first all-electric 3-row SUV. So it's really like a family-centric design, but it has all the comforts that you would need for a comfortable drive, but also a comfortable ride. So the center seats can turn to 180 degrees, so it can face the back seats, kind of creating a living room space in the cabin, which is really, really cool. Another thing that's great is that all the seats have extendable legs and leg rests so that you can actually let your legs lengthen while you're driving, especially for those long hauls, which is really important. So those models are really kind of exemplifying how auto brands are really trying to make the cabin space of the car a third living space, really.
There's so many things here, hearing you describe all these examples. Like one, the fact that we'll have to, in the future, because of sustainability, we're going to have to reduce flying. So you're suddenly like envisaging a world where, you're going to be using an electric car, more likely, or vehicle or pod instead of a plane. Also, just the aromatherapy just made me think of the tree, the sort of little hanging tree that you have in cars. It's like a really good leap on from that, isn't it? And then just traveling as a family, like it's so often, parents are in the front, the kids are squabbling in the back. You're having to tell them to stop it. Like this just could really change family travel. Like you're all in a pod together. You can, if your brother's annoying you, can swivel your chair around. You can play cards together. Like it's just a really exciting prospect of sort of beyond the anxiety of being driven by something. Suddenly like a journey just becomes, that's why I love train travel, right? You're all together around a table. This is what this could mean for cars.
Absolutely. That's a great example, the trains.
Really exciting. And there's this other trend, and I think you touched on it there with the circadian rhythm and the lighting and also the aromatherapy, is this prevalence of wellness. Obviously we're seeing wellness being a major consumer concern, but that's really interesting. How are car makers thinking about integrating this? I'll come to you for the first, Angela.
I think car makers are really approaching interior spaces from a comfort perspective. So incorporating really feel-good materials like supple leathers or supple leather alternatives, suede textures. So definitely the hand feel inside the car is very important. LED lighting has just skyrocketed. Lighting is used for either creating a soothing mood based on the color or for creating an energizing mood. BMW, I forget the exact model, but you can actually shift the color of the lighting based upon your mood, which is really nice. So there's a bit of customization with that. But I think really creating a comfortable cabin space. So the things I'm noticing from the past few trade shows are really Plump heavily padded headrests that kind of sculpt around the head. A lot of them have built-in speakers so that you have surround sound with the music. A lot of them have ventilation, so you could have it heated or cooling. Same with the seats. There is such an emphasis on having an ergonomic shape that kind of hugs the body. Those are often featuring those ventilation features too, whether heating or cooling. A lot of them have massaging capability, which is great. And I wonder about that when you're driving, because you don't want to fall asleep. So maybe that's more for the passenger. But just to have that massaging capability is really great. And really, people are putting in a lot of functionality with how far the legs can extend. So I've seen cars that have built-in ottomans, so you can actually put your feet up. So I think that the automakers are just focusing on how to make both short and long distance trips as comfortable as possible.
I like the sound of this. I can't wait to get my new car.
It's like we'll never want to get out of our cars.
Yeah, exactly. You're listening to the WGSN Create Tomorrow podcast, and in this episode, we're talking about the future of electric vehicles from a tech and a design perspective. I'm Bethan Ryder, Editorial Director at WGSN, and my guests today are Angela Ringo, Senior Trend Forecaster and Editor on our Interiors platform, and Carol Aquino, Head of Consumer Tech. Carol, I want to come to you next. You've talked about cars being mobile Zen lounges. So what are the tech innovations that will enable this for car manufacturers?
I think that the tech innovations, you can start by saying that EVs give consumers quieter rides, just to start with, right? And I think that also there's so many things happening right now with sensor connectivities, in which you can not only connect the sensors that are inside the cars with your own wearables, so it can monitor with biofeedback, it can monitor your stress levels, and that could also be connected with other features in the car, which, are tapped into, let's say, apps, meditation apps that will give you music for you to relax if you're, stressed inside of your car while you're driving. And also there is the adaptability that we were talking about, the skateboard chassis, which gives this idea in which you can create, let's say, adaptable seating that Angela was talking about. And I think that there is a couple of examples of concept cars, one by Volkswagen, which is its concept Gen Travel. And these seats, they turn into beds. And it triggers also a lighting that has automatically melatonin production lighting to help the passengers fall asleep and wake up. So it's an idea of a concept car that you could sleep in when it becomes fully autonomous. And also Audi's urban sphere concept, which also has the idea of serving as a living space and mobile office with 180 degrees seats that turn. And also stress detection capabilities that I talked about with sensors, and they're analyzing drivers' emotions through those sensors, and they offer personalized relaxation recommendations. So you do have these technologies being integrated as well with people's wearables and their apps on their phones, such that they can just have a holistic experience.
So I like the idea of the stress sensor. Does this mean if you get road rage, potentially you could have a really calm voice telling you to put on the massage, calm down?
Absolutely. You have AI assistants right now being integrated in cars, right? So you would have your emotion AI. AI is now having also emotional intelligence. We call it emotion AI. So most definitely it would be like this soothing, calming voice telling you, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to have road rage.
Yeah. The third trend, which we touched upon a bit at the beginning, really, is just screens everywhere, right? We live our lives on screen. But this is kind of, are we likely to see more and more of these in vehicles? Or it sounds like we are. Carol, are I'm imagining that you could have a whole wraparound screen if it becomes a lounge on wheels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is definitely no. We're just going to have more and more screens around us, I'm afraid. So, we already have, for instance, the example of a Mercedes Hyperscreen, which is it's a screen spanning across the whole front dashboard, right? And now it currently gives just better infotainment to both the driver and the front passenger. It's not just one tiny screen here, one tiny screen there. And I think that, we also have AR being integrated into windshields. And with Apple Vision Pro coming out soon, the spatial computing world will certainly continue to grow, and automakers will definitely benefit from this. In the future, with autonomous driving, as you mentioned, and you have, the rotating chairs and everything, all windows can become displays, including the side ones. So that's very exciting.
Who's pioneering this already and integrating screens from a design perspective, Angela? What's going on? Have you got some good examples?
Great example is the Sony Honda Mobility's Afeela EV prototype. Their cabin features slim screens on the back of the driver and passenger seats. And they're put there for gaming and movie viewing, which is great. There's another one that is from Mercedes Maybach, the EQS 680 SUV, that has monitors on the back seat, but they can be removed and used throughout the cabin, almost like a tablet. And I've even seen some really cool screens on truck designs, Ram's 2024 1500 EV pickup. It has a touch screen under the dashboard, but then there's a smaller screen located just underneath it that can be passed around the truck and used if you want to change the music, turn up the heat, adjust anything in the cabin space. So the drivers not always have to be in control of the climate or the sound within the vehicle. So I think it's interesting that not only are screens becoming more prevalent and streamlined, I really love the aesthetic of how they're looking because a lot of them are frameless. So it's just this beautiful glass that comes down, and because it's just glass, it can kind of wrap with the seat. So it's very streamlined and almost ergonomic in shape. So I think that that's going to continue, and that being able to move it around the cabin and use it more as a tablet, I think is really, really interesting for bringing screens forward.
So it really sounds like cars are sort of blending into domestic spaces in the future. Do you think eventually your car could literally be an extension of your home? So you'd have you might have your cinema snug and it could literally detach and become a mobile pod that hits the streets. Carol, do you see this as a potential?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, with the adaptability factor of the skateboard chassis, you can imagine a future where you have the chassis completely separated from the upper part of the car, which could be pod. And I think that a great example is a partnership between French companies Citroën, Accor, and JC Decaux, and called Urban Collective. And they developed the Citroën Autonomous Mobility Vision concept, in which they have this open source technology in which they offer mobility services for third-party pod creators. So you would have, people creating pods and people creating skateboard chassis. So this would be incredible because you can, have your own, like you mentioned, your own snug. That could be a pod, and you could have modular aspects to it, and so in which that you would tailor it to your preferences whenever you need it, such that you could rent a skateboard chassis and then put your pod on top of it and just go somewhere. But then when it's your snug, you could change it again and you could just have it on a different configuration. So that is very, very, a very exciting future that Citroën has envisioned.
Obviously, we'd have to have property developers liaising with car makers and all being on the same page. So, those things always take a little bit of organisation, but I love that idea. What's your personal favourite out there innovation that you've seen in this market so far, Carol?
Oh, definitely Neo House. They are houses, they are buildings in which people that have new cars can just go and they can enjoy the cafe, or they can just get some books from the library and bring them back later. They could work from there, kind of like a WeWork type of experience. And I think that the whole concept that Nears brings around us is convenience, right? So not only they have the swappable batteries, but they created those new houses in China and now also in Europe, in which they have, a cafe, a library, conference rooms, meeting rooms. So it's an idea where if you buy a Neo, you belong to a club and you can just go there and work and rest and play, which is the idea that we're also talking about from the cars, right? So they are bringing that convenience right now.
Brilliant. And what are you seeing, Angela, that that's caught your eye?
Well, I'm kind of obsessed with this car that came out this year. It's the 2023 Phantom Centopia that's designed by Rolls-Royce and the Dutch designer Iris van Herpen. It's a beautiful car, and it features a lot of the details that Iris van Herpen uses in her couture collections. And when you go into the car, the headliner is made from leather adorned with glass organza flower petals and little tiny fiber optic lights. So when you're sitting inside of it, it feels like you're under a nighttime sky. And then there's all this beautiful fabric manipulation. So the car is inspired by biomimicry. And there's all this like really beautiful twisting and weaving of the fabric. So it has this gorgeous kind of surface dimension that I've never seen before. And then on the exterior, they use this paint color called liquid noir, which is like a color that sits in between purple and black. And it has this sparkly iridescent sheen to it that just makes the whole thing look like it comes from another world. So I posted it on our feed, so you can check it out on the feed and interiors. But that's a car that I think kind of sets a new standard for how the interior of a car can look. Yeah, it's really a beautiful design.
Okay, so we predicted flying cars in 2022 in our future top trends. We said flying cars were kind of 2022 and beyond. Obviously, we're now in 2023. Is this still likely reality? As a final question, Angela, is it still looking like this is developing?
Oh, yeah, big time. There are a lot of key eVTOL brands like Archer Aviation, Velocopter, Vertical Aerospace. They're planning on launching their eVTOLs in 2025. So it's right around the corner where we're going to start seeing short distance flights and e-taxis operating in major cities, definitely in the US and I'm sure in Europe as well. And I found an interesting bit of data. The eVTOL aircraft market is projected to be worth $34.92 billion by 2030. So that's a huge market. And I just recently watched some videos on some of the designs, and it's kind of fascinating to watch them fly. So definitely, this is definitely growing, and it's not that far in the future.
Amazing. So it won't just be a lounge on wheels, it'll be a lounge on wings as well.
On wings.
Thanks so much to my guests today, Angela and Carol. And thank you for listening. If you're a WGSN subscriber, you'll find forecasts on this topic on our consumer tech and interiors platforms. And if you want to find out how to subscribe, head over to WGSN.com to discover how you can get access to our service. We're constantly publishing new content focusing on how we can design a brighter, better future for all of our industries. And these include food and drink, interiors, beauty, fashion, and consumer tech. You can subscribe to the Create Tomorrow podcast on all major platforms. And if you like what you've heard, why not leave us a rating and review? We'll be back in 2 weeks for our next episode. And in the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Bazzashi, next week on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow, in which she'll be discussing the future of elderly care.